The Houston Texans defeat the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football 34-10 in a pretty dominant victory for the Texans. Let's talk about this game. Now, I'm going to start from the Houston Texans perspective. I actually thought that this was an unimpressive game from CJ Stroud. 23 of 34, 257 yards, no touchdowns, a pick, and a 77.7 passer rating. Yet Houston was able to go on the road and get a 21 plus point victory. Now, granted, they may be playing without Dak Prescott, the worst team in football in the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm not sure that's hyperbolic. They're 0-5 at home this season, and in like their last 10 games, they showed some graphic where they've led for 2 minutes out of 112 possible minutes. It was something crazy, but CJ Stroud kind of didn't get his footing. He didn't get sacked a whole lot. There was some pressures. Obviously, the weak point of the Houston Texans is still that offensive line, and Dallas, for all their injuries, does have Micah Parsons out there, who was a top 5 edge rusher undisputedly in the sport. He obviously was able to get home a little bit, and not in terms of sacks, but I think they said he had like 10 pressures in this game or something crazy like that. Obviously, that is going to affect CJ Stroud. Nico Collins back, but not in full effect. He did have the one explosive play to open up the game called back, that 77-yard touchdown. I know Texans fantasy managers alike were wishing that one standed. Even just me, somebody who didn't have any stake in it, to see one of the league's best players come back from injury on their very first play, house one, 70 plus yards, just have it called back for one of those, penalties in the ineligible player downfield that didn't even really affect the outcome of the play. That kind of stinks. But Nico, 4 for 54, Tank Dell, the same stat line. Joe Mixon was the story of this game. And I talked about Joe Mixon on the previous channel, and I've just kind of been hammering down this point all season. We have, as an NFL society, I guess is the way to word this, undervalued the running backs greatly coming into this season. When you look at the most impactful players on their team this year and on good teams, you think Derrick Henry, the Ravens, Saquon Barkley, the Eagles, Joe Mixon, the Texans. This is his 6th straight road game of 100 plus yards and a touchdown, and he had the hat trick, 3 tugs in this game. Unreal night from Joe Mixon when he hits the fucking cowboy at the end of the 3rd touchdown. I mean, man was going crazy out there. Clear locker room guy, clear team, big energy guy. The Texans felt like they had their swagger back tonight. I feel like that's been missing the past couple games. In the second half, though, if I'm a Texans fan, there is a little bit of worry. They haven't scored a touchdown in a month in the second half. That is not good. The offense has gone pretty stagnant. Now, obviously, Mixon gets home tonight in the defensive touchdown. Obviously, they didn't score an offensive touchdown before that Mixon one, but the offense in the second half does worry me. Teams are able to adjust, and whether it's, blitz schemes on that offensive line or just the Texans' overall lack of production without Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins 100%, I'm not fully sure. I guess we'll see how that plays out. I do love the Texans roster, but they do feel just a tick below some of the other teams in the AFC. I just have a hard time believing this team could still go into Kansas City or Buffalo and win a playoff game at this point in time. With how bad the Ravens defense is, week to week, it's pretty inconsistent. They were fine versus Pittsburgh, but that rivalry game always has something to it. Maybe Houston could pick up a win there, but without Stephon Diggs, I'm just not sure. Love the Joe Mixon addition to this team, as I was getting at, though, to just be able to have a consistent guy like that. Joe Mixon averaged 5.5 yards per carry, just continuously puts you in second and manageable, third and short, and to be dependable in the receiving game, be efficient near the goal line, be a road warrior. That is huge for this team. That is just huge for any team, really. But Joe Mixon, a team in Cincinnati is a team who could really use a Joe Mixon at this point in time. Whereas every single play feels hard for the Bengals and feels like they need to be perfect, the Texans feel like, hey, we can trust our running back with the ball. We can trust him with 20 to 30 touches a game, and he'll produce pretty consistently for us. Tonight, Joe Mixon had over 150 all-purpose yards, 3 touchdowns. On a night where CJ Stroud didn't have it, the offense was still able to move down the field, and the team still had a dominant victory. Yes, some of that has to do with playing a crappy Dallas Cowboys team with Cooper Rush, who, some plays in the first half looked fine, but obviously isn't a starting quarterback in this league, and the Cowboys' run defense is bad. But this is what we've seen from Joe Mixon all season for the Texans. This isn't just a one-time deal. This is what Mixon brings to this team. great play. The Texans defense also not one to be messed with. When they get Will Anderson Jr. back out there, D'Amico Autry to the middle of the line, that line hasn't been healthy all season. I mean, there's always an injury on that defensive line for Houston. When they get Hunter, Autry, Will Anderson, like if that pass rush can get to an elite level, that is something that could put Houston in the conversation with those top echelon AFC teams. I know it's unlikely at this point in time, and I'm not predicting it to happen, but you get a defensive pass rush that gets going. They have good linebacker play in Alshire and Toto Oto, and Stingley is a top 5 corner in the league. Kamari Lassiter looking like one of the better rookie picks. Petrie, Bullock, like they have a really freaking solid defense out there in Houston. If that offense can just get a little bit more explosive with Nico Collins staying healthy and Tank Dell and John Mechie doing their jobs, with the addition of Joe Mixon, if CJ Stroud can get on his A game, they have the potential to go on a playoff run. I'm not sitting here predicting it, but you see the makings of a really great team. High-level quarterback, good run game, dual threat offense, can get the explosive play, and a high-level pass rush with great edge rushers, great corners, a good head coach, smart head coach. Houston has the makings of a really good team. I like their general manager, Nick Caserio, too. I trust him to invest in the offensive line this offseason. Houston gets a much-needed victory, 7-4. They're in the driver's seat of the AFC South. For Dallas, they now fall to 3-7 on the season. Cooper Rush, 55 pass attempts out of your backup quarterback. That's a lot to ask of a guy. Had a couple bad plays in this one. Had the really weird fumble that was recovered by his lineman, but then was fumbled again, returned for a touchdown, and that just completely swung the momentum of this game. Dallas is completely lost at this point in time. CeeDee Lamb, 8 for 93, so they got him a little bit more involved, but, just to think in a couple weeks, we're going to see Cooper Rush, Tommy DeVito on Thanksgiving. What world are we living in fucking 2024, am I right? But, hey, Thanksgiving football, still Thanksgiving football. For the Cowboys, we're kind of just on to what's next for this team. What's the plan going forward next season? Do you extend Micah? What kind of draft picks do you have? Who's the head coach of this team? There's a lot that goes into it. I had this sick and twisted thought of the Cowboys ending up with the second or third pick in this draft, and then trading Dak Prescott to the Raiders, who had the other one of those 2 picks, kind of what Houston did a couple years ago with Arizona, where they traded up to have picks 2 and 3, and then this team takes Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter and has Dion come coach them. If any Cowboys fans are watching, let me know your thoughts. How would you even feel about that? Talk about $1 million show for Jerry Jones. Whether it's good or bad on the field, the fucking money that would be made off of that is almost just not worth not doing it. But on a realistic note of things, the Cowboys, that offensive line, it's getting old. It's getting banged up. We saw Zach Martin, one of the game's best, get hurt in this game. The defensive line outside of Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, but he's good for half of a season at this point in his career. There's just a lot of question marks and holes on this Cowboys roster, with a Philly roster that looks really good, a promising Commanders squad with their clear franchise quarterback, a Giants roster that to me feels like a quarterback away. There's going to be some long looking in the mirror for Dallas at the end of this season. This kind of feels like how every game is going to go for Dallas the rest of the way. Maybe we get a couple good Cooper Rush plays here and there, but ultimately this team isn't going to be able to do anything. And if I'm a Cowboys fan, fuck it, I want to lose games at this point. Get me as close to the top of the draft as possible. Let me get one of those elite edge rushers, or, let me shake the globe and, do the Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter thing. I don't know how it's going to work out. There's going to be a lot of interesting mock draft talk about the Cowboys when the time comes. But if you're going to suck, my thought is let's fucking suck. Let's get to the bottom of the poll. Let's get as close to the top of the draft as possible. And honestly, I think Dallas should highly consider, if they get the second or third pick in the draft, trading back for a haul. A team like New Orleans, who potentially could be middle of the pack, who knows what kind of package they could give you to move up. Or even a team like the Raiders or Browns, if they finish with a better record than Dallas and they want to get a quarterback, what kind of haul can you get for giving a team the rights to draft their franchise quarterback? because Dallas, the roster with Dak, CD, and Micah isn't going to have a lot of money to go around. You're going to need a lot of highly productive rookies, a lot of highly productive cheap contracts, and the best way to get that is to load up on picks. So again, if I'm Dallas, it's kind of tank season at this point in time. I would tank if I was the Dallas Cowboys, and if I'm Houston, I like the spark that I saw. Let's get the defensive line healthy. Let's get a little bit more Nico Collins involved next week, and fuck it, let's see if we can go on a run, because the AFC, obviously Kansas City gets beat this week. They feel like they're penetrable. Baltimore, the defense is a struggle. Buffalo, right now I'm kind of leaning as my pick to come out of the AFC, but we've seen them have playoff woes, and the Texans beat up Josh Allen earlier this year. Like, I'm not ruling the Texans out. I'm not putting them in a favorites category, but the path is there. Top 10 quarterback, good coach, great edge rushers. Your quarterback can get the ball to good weapons. I'm just saying there's a chance for the Texans. Just a chance, but I love the future of this team. As always, drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. What did you think of this game? If you're new to the channel and you love the NFL and you made it this far in the video, hit the subscribe button. We're doing instant reactions to all the primetime games. I got weekly tier lists coming out on the channel. My week 11 reactions video fully up on the channel now. 30+ minutes of me talking straight ball with y'all. I will catch you guys next time. Peace.